family laughed at my dream of being an artist. Now, my paintings sell for more than all their homes. The auctioneer's hammer comes down with a sharp crack, and the number that leaves his mouth hangs in the air like it's physically heavier than everything else in the room. For a second, I swear the whole gallery tilts. The lights are hot, my palms are damp, and my mother's wine glass actually freezes halfway to her lips as the crowd breaks into polite applause. That's more than our house, my brother whispers, a little too loudly. I'm close enough to see the way his fingers tighten around the paddle he never actually raised. My dad lets out this awkward half-laugh, half-cough, and my aunt presses her hand to her chest like she might be having a small heart episode. On the wall in front of us, the painting they're all staring at, a big messy storm of teal and rust and gold leaf that I nearly threw away twice, has a tiny red dot next to the title. I can hear my own heartbeat thudding under the hum of people talking, glasses clinking, the soft shuffle of expensive coats. The auctioneer says something about record-breaking for a living local artist, and someone squeezes my shoulder from behind. My gallery rep, probably, or the curator, or some collector who wants to be seen touching me. I nod, smile on autopilot, and my eyes flick back to my family. To the exact people who once sat around a cheap laminate kitchen table and laughed so hard at the words, "I want to be an artist," that my face burned for hours. It was a Sunday afternoon when I first said it out loud. Properly said it, not just joked about drawing for a living or daydreamed about it in the back of my math book. I was 16. We were eating roast chicken that had been stretched too far, more potatoes and gravy than meat. And the TV in the corner was playing some talent show on low volume. A girl no older than me was on screen, painting on a giant canvas to dramatic music. I could do that, I muttered, more to myself than anyone. My dad snorted without looking away from his plate. "You can't even remember to take the bins out," he said. "You're not exactly driven, love." My mom dabbed at her mouth with a paper napkin. "Don't encourage her," she said. "You already spend too much time doodling, Jess. You need to think about something real." I've been working up to it all week. My art teacher had pulled me aside after class, put one of my charcoal portraits on the desk between us, and said, "You know you have something, right?" He talked about art school and portfolios and scholarships, and for the first time, the word artist didn't feel like a fantasy character. It felt like a job title you could print on a form. So I tried again. "I'm serious," I said, forcing my voice not to wobble. "Mr. Klein thinks I should apply to the academy in the city. He says I have a real shot." I was thinking, I want to be an artist. Like properly. That's what I want to do. For half a second, there was silence. The forks paused midair. Then my brother choked on his drink and burst out laughing. "An artist?" he wheezed. "Like what? Painting on the sidewalk for tourists." My dad grinned, the same grin he used when he told jokes at barbecues. "You hear that, love?" he said to my mom. "Our girl's going to be the next Picasso." He butchered the name on purpose. My uncle, visiting that night, actually slapped the table. Mom shook her head, smiling in that tight way she does when she's annoyed. "Come on, Jess," she said. "Be serious. You're good at English. You could be a teacher, or get a nice office job. Painting is a hobby, not a plan." My cheeks burned. "It could be a job," I said. "People do it." "Yeah," my brother said. "Like 1 in a million. The rest end up broke and living in share houses with 50 cats. There was more laughing. I tried to push the words back into my mouth, but they just sat there, heavy. I stared down at my plate where a smear of gravy was drying, and the smell of overcooked Brussels sprouts turned my stomach. "That's enough," Mom said eventually, when Dad mimed holding a paintbrush and pretending to faint like a dramatic artist. "We're just being realistic. You'll thank us later when you don't end up disappointed." I nodded like I agreed, because at 16 you don't have a lot of power, and you learn fast that arguing with a whole room is like trying to yell down the ocean. But something inside me shifted that day. It was small and sharp, and it hurt, like a splinter you can't quite pull out. From then on, artist in our house became a punchline. If I forgot to do a chore, you're never going to make it as an artist if you're this lazy. If I came home with paint on my hands, there she is, our little starving artist. Better enjoy the free food while it lasts. If I stayed up late sketching instead of studying for math, you think lines and squiggles are going to pay the bills? They weren't cruel, not in the way that makes easy villains in stories. They bought me sketchbooks at Christmas, cheap sets of paint from the bargain bins. They put my drawings on the fridge sometimes. But always with this tone of "isn't that cute," like watching a toddler pretend to drive a toy car. The unspoken message was clear: we'll humor you now, but at some point you'll grow out of this. I didn't grow out of it. I got into the City Academy on a scholarship. I still have the letter, creased and faded from being unfolded and refolded so many times my first year. The day it came, I ran into the living room, clutching the envelope like a golden ticket. They accepted me, I said, breathless. The Academy. I got in. Mom took the letter, scanned it, and handed it to Dad. He whistled. Full time, he read. Intensive program. Studio-based. He looked up. So what? You're going to move to the city and paint all day? That's the idea, I said. There's history and theory and stuff too. But yeah, it's a big deal. My brother looked up from his phone. Do they pay you to finger paint? He asked. Tom, Mom said, but she was smiling. I waited for the pride. For the "we're so proud of you," the hug, the "you did it." It didn't come. Who's paying for this? Dad asked instead. Because we sure as hell can't afford city rent. It says here there's a living stipend, Mom said, scanning the second page. But it's not much. I can work, I said quickly. Part-time. Nights, weekends. I'll figure it out. Dad sighed. We just want you to be smart about this, he said. Fine, go to your little art course. But have a backup. And don't come crying to us when it doesn't pan out. I left for the city with 2 suitcases, a box of art supplies, and the distinct feeling that I was embarking on some doomed quest no one believed I could finish. Art school was brutal and beautiful and exhausting. For every teacher who saw something in my work, there was another who told me it was derivative or not resolved. I worked weekends at a cafe, coming home smelling like burnt milk and industrial cleaner, my hands raw from dishes. I painted on scraps of canvas, on cardboard pulled from behind stores, on anything I could get for free. There were whole months where I lived on pasta, black coffee, and adrenaline. When my period stopped for 3 months from stress and malnutrition, I spent a night convinced I was pregnant despite the complete lack of sex in my life. Turned out it was just my body waving a tiny white flag. Back home, the commentary continued. When are you going to get a real job? Mom would ask on the phone. You can't keep floating around forever, Dad would add. Your cousin Lisa already has a mortgage. My brother loved sending me job ads. Entry-level admin role, $45,000. You're welcome, he'd text, followed by unless the Louvre called you, and I missed it. I kept my mouth shut about the little wins because they sounded pathetic even to me. A small group show in a community space. A professor who nominated me for a prize I didn't win. A stranger in Market who bought a $60 painting and told me it made them feel calm. But there was one person who made it feel less impossible. A visiting artist named Eli. He was in his 50s, with paint permanently under his nails and laugh lines that cut deep into his cheeks. He'd come up through the old way. No formal training, just decades of painting, hustling, sleeping in crappy studios. Your stuff has teeth, he told me once, standing in front of a piece I'd almost hidden. That's good. Don't sand them down just because some curator likes things soft. He talked about the business side of things in a way our professors never did. Licensing, giclée prints, editioning, saying no, saying yes. He didn't romanticize starving. You can't make good work if you're worried about the power bill, he said. There is no nobility in being so broke you can't afford decent brushes. After I graduated, the academy spat us all out into the world like chewed gum. Some people moved back home. Some got design jobs. A few, mostly the ones with family money, rented big, airy studios in old warehouses and treated it like a gap year. I moved into a share house above a laundromat. My room had one window that looked directly into a brick wall. The floor sloped. In summer, it was an oven. In winter, a fridge. It was mine. I worked wherever anyone would hire me. Cafe, bookstore, occasional bar shifts. I painted at night, in the early mornings on my days off. I signed up for every open call I could afford. Most of them said no. A few said yes. My parents came to one of those early shows. It was in a converted warehouse that still smelled faintly like oil and dust. The walls were too white. My work looked small and loud at the same time. Mom wore her church dress. Dad had on the same collared shirt he wore to funerals. They looked out of place among the black turtleneck crowd. "This is interesting," Mom said, staring at a canvas where I'd layered thick strokes of blue over an image of my childhood kitchen. "And people pay for this." "Not yet," I said, "but they might." Dad squinted at the label. "700, he said. "For that?" "You know, our first car cost less." He laughed like he made a great joke. Mom joined in. A week later, that piece sold to a couple who said it reminded them of the house they grew up in. They paid in installments. I stretched the money out over months. When I told my parents there was a beat, then wow, Mom said, "Someone actually bought one? That's lucky." "Good for you," Dad added. "Maybe you could put it toward your HECS debt, hey?" Luck. It went on that way for years. Little wins, bigger frustrations. Shows that led to nothing. Shows that led to one small commission that led to something else months later. A constant low-level hum of maybe this is a huge mistake in the back of my mind. And always the family chorus. When are you going to think about buying a house? You can't rent forever. Art won't love you back. The turning point, if you can call it that, came in the most ridiculous way. A lifestyle influencer came into the cafe where I worked. She ordered an oat latte and sat at the table by the window, the one that faced the tiny, half-hearted exhibition of my work the owner let me hang for ambience. She took a photo of her coffee. The photo accidentally included one of my paintings in the background. She posted it with some caption about local vibes. Her followers started asking about the art. She tagged the cafe tagged me. Within a week, my Instagram following tripled. Within a month, I'd sold every piece from that show. The influencer bought one herself, a small work of a woman with her back to the viewer, shoulders tense. "She feels like me," she said, handing over a credit card without haggling. Around the same time, Eli connected me with a small gallery he'd worked with years earlier. "They won't make you rich," he said, "but they won't screw you either." The gallery owner, a woman named Mara with a permanent paint smear on her jeans, looked through my portfolio in silence. Finally, she said, "Okay, let's try a small solo show. 20 works. You keep painting like this." That show sold out before it even opened. A collector bought 3 pieces. A critic wrote a short review that used words like visceral and urgent. My phone didn't stop buzzing. People I hadn't spoken to in years were suddenly very interested in grabbing coffee. My family's reaction to all this was complicated. "Your cousin sent me an article about you," Mom said on the phone, sounding bewildered. "You're in the paper." "Our Jess." "In the paper?" Dad tried to act like he'd always believed in me. "See," he said, "didn't I always say you were talented?" He had not always said that. My brother texted, "Heard you're famous now. Don't forget us little people," followed by a screenshot of a real estate listing. "Bet you still can't afford one of these." He was wrong. The thing about art prices is they're surreal until suddenly they're your reality. The small gallery led to a bigger gallery. The bigger gallery led to representation overseas. The first time a painting sold for more than my yearly income at the cafe, I stared at the email for a full 10 minutes. "Is this a typo?" I asked Mara. She laughed. "Nope," she said. "You're entering a different bracket now. Brace yourself." 3 years after that first influencer-posted latte, here I am at this auction, watching a room full of very rich people wave paddles around for the right to own something that used to exist only in the back of my skull. The pre-sale estimates already made me queasy. The final hammer price lands somewhere beyond what my brain had filed under realistic. Someone leans in. "You just beat your own record," Mara murmurs in my ear. "You okay?" I nod. I am and I'm not. It's like watching a version of your life you drew in pencil suddenly ink itself in without asking. Across the room, my brother is still staring at the red dot on the wall like it personally insulted him. Dad looks dazed. Mom's hand trembles as she puts her glass down. The gallery assistant announces that we'll be moving to the next lot. People start drifting, buzzing. My family doesn't move. I take a breath and walk over. Hey, I say. My voice sounds normal, which feels like an accomplishment. Mom looks up at me, eyes wide. Jess, she says. They just said, how much did that person pay? I tell them. The number comes out flat, like I'm saying time. That's more than our house, my brother says again, because apparently his brain is stuck on that fact. Like our entire house. Yep, I say. And the townhouse. And Aunt Carol's place if you throw that in too. I don't mean it to be petty. It just comes out. Dad recovers enough to give a strained chuckle. Well, he says, guess all that doodling paid off, huh? There it is. The rebrand. Doodling as charming origin story instead of the thing he mocked for a decade. Guess so, I say. Mom reaches for my arm. We're proud of you, she says. We always knew you'd do something special. I feel something twist in my chest. Not quite anger, not quite sorrow. No, I say softly. You didn't. There's a beat of silence. The noise of the gallery swells around us and drops away again. That's not fair, Mom says, hurt flickering across her face. We supported you. We let you go to that academy. We came to your little shows. Little. You laughed, I say. When I told you I wanted to be an artist, you laughed. You called a hobby. You told me not to be silly. You asked me when I'd get a real job every time I came home. Dad frowns. We were just worried about you, he says. The world is tough. We didn't want you to get hurt. But I got hurt anyway, I say. I just had to do it alone. Sleeping in a room that was basically a storage closet, working 2 jobs, trying to figure out how to stretch $10 across 3 days. I would have gotten hurt whether my paintings sold or not. The difference is you were on the side of the hurt, not on my side. Mom's eyes fill with tears. Don't say that, she whispers. We're your family. Exactly, I say. You were supposed to be the people who believed in me when strangers didn't. Instead, strangers paid my rent and bought my work and told me I wasn't crazy. You joked about me ending up broke. My brother shifts awkwardly. We were kids, he says. We were just joking around. You were 25 the last time you told me to give up the dream and join the real world. I say. That's older than I was when I had my first solo show. He looks away. All right, he mutters. Point taken. Someone calls my name from across the room. A collector, a journalist, someone with a clipboard. My life now, apparently. Look, Dad says quickly. We don't want to fight. We just wanted to be here for you. This is big. Even if we don't understand it. I take them in. Mom, cheeks flushed. Dad, shoulders tense. My brother, hands jammed into his jacket pockets like a sulky teenager. I think about the kitchen table with the peeling veneer, the way the gravy dried on my plate the day they laughed. I think about the nights I lay awake in the laundromat room listening to the dryers rumble below and wondering if I was delusional. You're here now, I say. That counts for something. But you don't get to rewrite how we got here. Mom opens her mouth, closes it again. Can we start over? She asks. We're learning. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Starting over doesn't erase what happened, I say. But we can start from where we actually are, not from a fake memory where you always believed in me. My brother glances at the painting again. So, how many of these would you have to sell to buy a house? He asks, half joking, half serious. I look at him. I could buy yours outright with 3, I say. The one that just sold would cover Mom and Dad's place and leave change. His mouth falls open. You're kidding. I'm not, I say. That's what you were laughing at. There's a strange satisfaction in saying it out loud. Not gloating exactly, just naming the thing. Later that night, after the last flute of champagne has been abandoned on a windowsill and the last guest has been gently ushered toward the door, I go back into the now quiet gallery. The lights are dimmer. The paintings look different without people in front of them. I stand in front of the one that caused all the fuss and take it in the way I did when it was just me and the canvas in my studio, the smell of turpentine in the air and my back aching. I remember the playlist I had on repeat while I worked on it, the way I almost gessoed over the whole thing after a bad critique. Do you ever get used to this? I ask quietly. Eli, who somehow materialized at my elbow like he always does at these things, huffs. If you do, you've lost the plot, he says. But you learn to stand on both sides. the part that makes it in the studio, and the part that lets it go out there to be turned into a number. I nod. My family keeps saying they're proud now. I say, like everything before this was just a phase. He shrugs. People like a success story, he says. It makes them feel wise in retrospect. I don't know what to do with them, I admit. Same thing you do with a painting, he says. Step back. Decide where you want them to live in your life. Front room, back room, storage, or out the door. I snort. You make it sound simple. It's not, he says. But neither is this. He gestures at the painting, the gallery, the whole absurd machine. You did this anyway. On the train home, still in my black dress with a plastic garment bag crumpled on the seat beside me, I scroll through my messages. Friends cheering. Gallery thanking. A text from Mom. So proud of you. We told everyone in the neighborhood about your auction. Love you. A text from Dad. Drinks at our Sunday to celebrate? I'll fire up the barbecue. A text from my brother, so can I get your autograph before you ditch us for Paris? I stare at the screen for a moment, thumb hovering. Then I type, to Mom, thanks. It means a lot to hear that now. It would have meant even more back then. Maybe we can talk about that sometime. To Dad, I'll let you know about Sunday. I'm exhausted and need some quiet. To my brother, you've already had 27 years of my company. No autograph needed. Then, after a beat, but you could buy a print if you want. He replies almost immediately. Cheeky. Send me the link. The carriage rocks gently. The city lights blur past. I catch my reflection in the window. Tired, a little shell-shocked, paint still under one fingernail because some things don't change. My family laughed at my dream of being an artist. They told me it wasn't realistic, that I'd never make money, that I'd end up crawling back home with my tail between my legs. They built entire conversations around the assumption that I would fail. Now, my paintings sell for more than all their homes combined. That part makes for a neat title, a good story to tell in interviews. What doesn't fit in a headline is this. The money doesn't make their laughter hurt less. It just means I don't need their permission anymore. I still paint alone in a room that smells like turpentine. I still have days where I stare at a blank canvas and think, what if this is the last good thing I ever make? I still carry 16-year-old me inside my ribs, the girl at the laminate table with gravy going cold while everyone laughed. But when I unlock my front door, a door to a home I paid for with color and risk and stubbornness, I walk into a space filled with my own work, my own choices. No one could take that away from me. Not even the people who gave me my first crayons and my first reasons to doubt.